Hey, what's up, man? It's Immortal Technique. Here with Mikey T, the movie star. We are live on Report Card Radio, motherfucker. You already know.
All right, here we go, man. Immortal Technique. I appreciate you taking the time, to speak with me, man. As someone who's been listening to music for 15 plus years, man, I respect you coming on to my outlet, Report Card Radio.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
So, can you tell me about being born into a military hospital in a war-torn country?
I think that Peru at that time was going through a series of false flag attacks and really was caught between the forces of a very harsh right-wing backed dictatorship and Maoist guerrillas from the left, where people from these small indigenous communities were caught kind of in the middle. Lima, where I was born, being the capital of Peru, was an epicenter for some of these violent occurrences that were more popular. But away from the epicenter were these kind of sub-tremors of murder and violence. And the government had a very, very difficult time trying to convince the people it was doing right for them, because at the end of the day they were carrying out forcible sterilization in some parts. And any logical person would say to themselves, well, you're sterilizing indigenous women. Now, what part of fucking anti-communism is that? I think that it was just something you almost have to scoff at in terms of the ridiculousness that was brought to fold. But me being born there, I think my father's decision to leave, he said, came not from there being just violence, but economic violence as well, like in the form of almost, 5,000% inflation a year. We went through 2 currencies in 5 years. So I just explained to Americans that may not understand it. Imagine going to the store and you give them $100 at the grocery store and they're like, well, I'm sorry, this $100 is only worth $25. And then a couple of months later you come back and they say, well, wait a minute, this $100 is only worth $5. And then you go back one time and they say, well, we don't even take dollars. We're taking Ameros now, or the new dollar. Or now it's not the Amero, it's the new dollar. So I think those were the kind of circumstances that were going on in Peru at that time.
At what point did you make your way to the United States, and how long was it before you became acquainted with the New York lifestyle and adapted to that?
Well, I moved to America when I was about 3 years old, so I was super young. My father was given a scholarship out of the Peruvian military to come and do sound technology research. So that's a very interesting thing about my family. My father, he doesn't play any instruments, nothing, right? Not even a fucking recorder. But he can tell you everything about sound, megahertz, the wave patterns, what a certain amount of wave patterns could do to matter, the way it could break it to pieces, or the way melodic sound affects the brain. So I learned a lot about sound in general as a little kid, and being accustomed to the New York lifestyle, so to speak, in the 80s. Well, I used to play in a playground in Grand Projects, and me and my friends, we would build little castles out of the fucking crack tops, the little colors that they put on top of the crack piles. We would stack them up together like it was. We thought they were missing Lego pieces, and then my mom smacked my hand and was like, "Please don't fucking touch that," But it was different. New York was a different place. You would see the type of shit that you see in movies with people standing around a burning barrel, warming their hands, rapping and singing to one each other. We think that that's just movies. Nah, that was real. I saw that. You can still see that in East Orange, New Jersey, and other really fucked up places. But in Harlem, that's what it was like. And one beautiful thing I thought was interesting about the culture is that they tolerated and accepted and eventually embraced anybody that was nice. So that was the beautiful thing about the cipher to me when I was a kid. If you were nice, they didn't care if you was from Brooklyn, from the Bronx. Of course, there was going to be favoritism. But man, white, brown, Asian, if you were nice, that was one thing that was just undeniable about hip-hop. It leveled out the playing field in terms of skills on the street. The industry is a whole different animal. But on the street, in front of people, that was one beautiful thing that I loved about the culture. That, man, if you came into it and you had bars, people automatically gave you your due. You know what I mean? Especially anyone who really understood the craft. You know? So I think my adapting to the culture was, obviously a little bit strange because I didn't speak English and I learned it super fast. And when I was a little kid, a funny little footnote is that I used to have a tiny bit of an accent. A little bit of an accent. I can sometimes do it if I want to, but it's not important. But I think what's interesting about it is that when I lost the accent, it was my father used to take me to the museum, and it just develops because it's immersion. That's what you realize. That's when I laugh at people who are like, oh, I don't need to learn Spanish. I'm like, dude, you sound like a person who knows how to add and subtract and you don't want to learn how to divide and multiply. It's literally another skill where you could speak to hundreds of millions of other people. It doesn't make you any less American or any less white or any less of an alpha male or any less tough to learn another fucking language, dude. If I were you, I'd be learning as many languages as I fucking can. If you want any future in business or any future in love or understanding or being able to communicate, and not just communicate, but comprehend what someone else is saying. So that's an interesting footnote that, as a little kid, I had a tiny bit of an accent and I literally melted away because I would just talk to people so much. And at that time, it was because I was my mother's interpreter. My mom only spoke French and Spanish when she came to this country. She didn't speak English. So I grew up speaking Spanish and French, and then I learned English when I was here. So that was an interesting thing about my life and language as it relates to me coming to America. And what was interesting is that speaking French, ironically, was helpful because Harlem is populated with lots of immigrants from West Africa. So if they're from Côte d'Ivoire or Guinea-Bissau or somewhere, I have a conversation with them like I would anybody. Oh, bonjour, monsieur, ça va? Ah, je suis très bien. Cool. Everything's nice and composed. And so I think it was culture shock, sure. But I think as a child, I adapted to it really well because children generally adapt to those really difficult circumstances, even horrific ones, which is sad.